My name is Emily, and I am 28 years old. I never thought the people who were supposed to love me the most would be the ones to destroy my future. But life has a way of teaching you lessons you never asked for. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, the oldest of two daughters. My sister, Lily, was 3 years younger than me, and from the moment she was born, everything in our house revolved around her. I told myself it was normal. Older siblings always get less attention, right? But what happened when I turned 18 changed everything. For as long as I could remember, my parents had been saving money for my college education. My grandmother had started that fund when I was just 5 years old. She worked extra shifts at her bakery, saved every spare dollar, and before she passed away, she made my parents promise that money was for my education. I had big dreams. I wanted to study medicine. I wanted to become a doctor. I had the grades. I had the acceptance letter. I had the plan. What I didn't have was the money. The summer before I was supposed to leave for college, my father sat me down at the kitchen table. His eyes couldn't meet mine. My mother stood by the window, arms crossed, looking outside like she was watching for something that wasn't there. My father cleared his throat and said, Emily, we need to talk about the college fund." Something inside me went cold. He told me that Lily had been accepted into a prestigious performing arts academy in New York City. It was expensive. The kind of opportunity, he said, that only comes once in a lifetime. I waited for him to tell me they had found another way to cover it. That moment never came. Instead, he looked down at the table and said, We used the fund, Emily. We had no other choice. Lily's talent is something truly special." I sat there without saying a word. 4 years of dreaming, 4 years of planning, gone in one conversation. And not once, not a single time, did either of them say sorry. I did not raise my voice. I did not cry in front of them. I stood up, walked to my room, closed the door quietly behind me, and sat on the edge of my bed for a very long time. That night, I made a decision. If my future was going to happen, I was going to build it myself, with my own hands, without anyone's help. I called the university the next morning and deferred my acceptance for 1 year. Then I got to work. I took 2 jobs, one at a grocery store during the week, one waitressing at a local diner on weekends. I applied for every scholarship I could find. I filled out applications late at night while the rest of the house slept. My parents never once asked how I was managing. They were busy taking Lily to auditions, buying her costumes, cheering at her performances. I was living under the same roof, and I was completely invisible. After a full year of working and saving, I had enough for my first semester. I packed my bag, called a cab, and walked out the front door. There was no goodbye dinner, no celebration, no hug at the door, because they never offered one. College was not easy. There were weeks I lived on instant noodles and coffee. There were mornings I dragged myself to a 7 a.m. class on 3 hours of sleep. There were quiet nights in the library where I questioned everything. But every time I felt like giving up, I thought about that kitchen table. I thought about my father's eyes that could not look at me. I thought about the silence where an apology should have been. And I used every piece of that pain to keep moving forward. 4 years later, I graduated with honors. No one from my family came. Lily had a performance that weekend. It took priority. I stood in that auditorium alone, in my cap and gown, and I smiled the biggest smile of my life, because I had done it, not for them, for me. For the little girl who was told her dreams mattered less. For my grandmother, who saved every dollar she had so I could have a future. I had kept her promise, even when they did not. 5 years passed. 5 years of building my life, brick by brick, completely on my own. After graduation, I got a job at a hospital in Chicago. It was not my dream position yet, but I was working my way up. I had a small apartment, a reliable car, and money in my savings account. For the first time in my life, I felt stable. I had not spoken to my parents much during those years. A few texts on birthdays, a short phone call on Christmas, nothing more than that. And honestly, I was okay with that. I had stopped waiting for an apology. I had stopped hoping things would be different. I had made peace with the fact that some people never change, even the ones who are supposed to love you. Then one Tuesday evening, my phone rang. It was my mother. I almost did not pick up, but something made me answer. Her voice sounded different, smaller, tired. She told me that my father had lost his job 6 months ago, that the bills had piled up, that they had taken out a loan they could no longer repay, that the house was close to foreclosure. And then she said the words I never expected to hear from her. "Emily, we need your help. You are the only one who can do something." I sat very still on my couch and just listened. She kept talking about how hard things had been, about how stressed my father was, about how they had nowhere else to turn. Not once did she mention the college fund. Not once did she say she was sorry. She spoke for almost 10 minutes straight, and when she finally went quiet, waiting for my answer, I took a slow, deep breath. "Mom, I need some time to think about this." She said she understood. We hung up. I put my phone down on the coffee table and stared at the ceiling for a long time. All those years ago, I had sat at a kitchen table and heard the words that changed my life. I had been given no time to prepare, no warning, no choice. Now it was my turn to decide. I thought about it for 3 days. I thought about my grandmother, about the bakery, about the doubles she worked so I could have a future. I thought about the cab I called the morning I left, about the graduation no one attended, about every silent birthday that passed without a single call. And then I thought about the person I had become. I had not become hard. I had not become bitter. I had worked too hard for that. On the 4th day, I called my mother back. I told her I would help, but not the way she was expecting. I was not going to hand over a check and pretend nothing had happened. I was not going to step in and rescue them from a situation while the wound between us was still sitting there, unaddressed. I told her that before any help, I needed one thing: an honest conversation, a real one. My mother went quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Okay, Emily, we can do that." 2 weeks later, I drove back to Ohio for the first time in 5 years. We sat at that same kitchen table, the same one where my father had told me the college fund was gone. It felt smaller than I remembered. My father looked older. My mother looked tired. I did not go in angry. I did not go in looking to punish anyone. I simply told them the truth. How that day had changed me. How I had felt invisible my entire childhood. How I had walked out of that house carrying something heavy that no young person should have to carry alone. My father was the first one to speak when I finished. His voice broke when he said, "Emily, I am